Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, we're just going to dive right into it today. We are unpacking the invisible magic that happens the exact second you type a web address into your browser and hit enter. It's this crazy journey that you and I trigger dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day, yet honestly, very few of us actually realize the high-speed relay race happening right under our fingertips. So, if you're a focused learner looking to finally wrap your head around the internet's underlying architecture, well, you are in the perfect place. Just think about it for a second. You open your browser, you type in youtube.com, and boom, almost instantly the page is there. But what actually happens after you press enter? Does your personal computer just, cast a magic spell and plug directly into YouTube's headquarters? Well, no. It doesn't actually connect directly to the website at first. In fact, what goes down in those literal fractions of a second involves this wild, complex web of translations, requests, and data assembly that is absolutely fascinating. So, let's kick things off with part one, the magic behind that click, and figuring out what a website actually is. To start, we kind of need to strip away the illusion. We tend to think of websites as these cohesive, magical places we go to. But reality check? A website is literally just a collection of files. That's the whole shebang. It's a bundle of text files written in code like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, paired up with media like images, and hooked into databases. They are just static bundles of data sitting out there in the digital ether, just waiting to be read and brought to life by your browser. Now you might be wondering, where do these files actually live? Well, they live on servers, and a server is simply a super powerful remote computer whose entire job in life is to store website files and serve them up the second someone asks. It's a lot like Netflix. When you want to watch a movie, you know that massive video file isn't taking up space on your personal laptop. It's stored on massive, highly optimized remote machines owned by Netflix. You hit play, your device asks their machine for the file. The exact same principle applies to any website. Your browser is basically just politely asking a remote server to hand over its files. Moving right along to part two, let's talk about DNS, otherwise known as the Internet's phone book. Okay, so the very first thing your browser does after you press enter is check its own memory. It wants to see if it already knows exactly where that website is located. If it doesn't, it has to consult the Domain Name System, or DNS. And this is absolutely crucial. DNS is essentially the internet's phone book. It's this massive global directory that takes the human-friendly website names we type in and translates them into the computer-friendly numbers needed to actually pinpoint that specific server on the globe. To really grasp why DNS is a total game changer, let's look at human memory versus computer memory. We humans, we're great at remembering words and brands, like youtube.com. But computers only speak math. They only understand numbers. Every single website server out there has a unique numerical identifier called an IP address, which looks something like 142.250. Whatever. Without DNS acting as our trusty translator, you'd literally have to memorize hundreds of complex numerical strings just to check the news or buy some shoes. DNS completely saves us from that nightmare. All right, that brings us to part three, servers, the backend, and databases. So, thanks to DNS, your browser now has the exact IP address of the server it needs to reach. When your browser finally makes contact, think of it like ordering food delivery. Your browser sends a request, which is you opening up an app and placing an order for a specific meal. The server is the restaurant. It gets your order, heads into the kitchen, and gathers all the right ingredients or files. Finally, the server packages it all up and sends a response, which is the delivery driver bringing that code straight back to your browser. You order, the server cooks, the internet delivers. Now, while we're talking about servers, we have to clear up a super common beginner mix-up, the difference between the front end and the back end. Sticking with our food analogy, let's look at an app like Uber Eats. The front end is everything you physically see and tap on your screen, the menus, the buttons, those glossy pictures of burgers. But the back end, that's the hidden logic happening back on the server. It's calculating your bill, checking if the restaurant is actually open, and securely running your credit card. The front end is the presentation, the back end is the brain. But the back end doesn't do this all by itself. To make things personalized, it relies heavily on a database. Think of a database as a highly organized digital warehouse storing specific dynamic info. When you search for laptop on Amazon, the backend instantly shouts over to the database, asking it to grab all the specific laptops, the current prices, and your saved user reviews. The database hands that to the backend, which hands it to you. That's exactly why you and your friend can log into the exact same website, but see a completely different personalized screen. Now we're getting to the fun part. Part 4. How your browser actually assembles the web page. Once all that raw data arrives back at your device, Your browser basically puts on a hard hat and becomes the ultimate construction worker. It starts reading those files at lightning speed. First up is Layer 1, HTML. HTML is the structural skeleton of the web page. The browser reads it to figure out exactly where the headings go, where paragraphs sit, and where to put a button. At this stage, the website actually works, but it's just plain black text on a stark white background. Just bare-bones structure. Next, the browser slaps on Layer 2, which is CSS. If HTML is the construction worker, CSS is the high-end interior designer. It takes that boring skeleton and makes it gorgeous. It applies the exact brand colors, tweaks the spacing so it's not a cluttered mess, loads up elegant fonts, and builds out those complex grid layouts. It completely transforms the page from a 1990s text document into the sleek, professional interface you're used to. Finally, the browser layers on JavaScript. So if HTML is the skeleton and CSS is the skin, JavaScript is the muscle. It brings interactivity. When you click a like button and it instantly turns blue without the whole page refreshing, or when you switch on dark mode or add something to your cart, that is all JavaScript flexing its muscles. Without this vital third layer, modern websites would just be pretty digital posters. JavaScript turns them into living, breathing applications. Okay, let's bring it all together in part 5 with the complete request flow. Zooming out, here is that entire life cycle from start to finish. Step 1, you type the URL and your browser checks the DNS phone book. 2, DNS shoots back the exact numerical IP address. 3, your browser rushes to connect to that server. 4, the server gets the request and hurls the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files back at you. 5, your browser rapidly builds the page layer by layer. And 6, the database keeps sending dynamic data so you can stream video or load new comments. And honestly, the most mind-blowing part? This entire 6-step journey, bouncing your data across the planet, happens in a matter of milliseconds. And those milliseconds, they matter. Big time. Tech companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars just to ensure this life cycle happens as fast as physically possible. They deploy advanced tech like content delivery networks, or CDNs, which basically store copies of websites geographically closer to your house. They use aggressive caching, image compression, load balancers, you name it. Why? Because the data proves that even a 1-second delay in this whole process drastically tanks customer satisfaction and can cost companies millions in lost sales. On the modern web, speed is absolutely everything. Now, for those of you who are watching this and thinking, wow, I want to build this stuff, here is your quick, actionable cheat sheet. This is what we call the modern tech stack. To build the front end we talked about, the industry uses tools like React, Angular, or Vue. For the back-end logic, you'd look at learning Node.js, Python, or Java. For storing all that dynamic data, you'll use databases like MongoDB or MySQL. And for the servers themselves, you'll be renting space from cloud giants like AWS or Microsoft Azure. Master a combo of these, and you've got your ticket to building the web. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. The very next time you click a link, are you just going to see a simple web page? Or are you going to picture the thousands of systems, the lightning-fast DNS translations, the remote server responses, and the layered browser assembly all working in perfect millisecond harmony just for you? Tech can definitely seem like magic, but when you break it down, it's just an incredible feat of human engineering. I really hope this explainer gave you a totally new appreciation for the invisible infrastructure powering our digital lives. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and I will catch you in the next explainer.